Good morning, or at least that's what it is for me today. It's a beautiful morning here in South Florida. Welcome to the Lost and Found. Today I woke up, came outside, was reading, and watching many squirrels just run across my backyard. And I thought to myself, this must be the only time of day that the squirrels can enjoy running through my backyard, because any other time of the day, my puppies are going to be barking and freaking out and begging to come outside and messing with the squirrels. So I figured this must be their time. And then I watched a heron fly very close to the water over the lake, and the birds chirping and the branches blowing and the sun rising. And I just thought, I am surrounded by so much beauty, and I am also made up of so much beauty. And that the steps to falling back in love with your life are really just finding gratitude and stillness for what you're currently surrounded by. And by doing that, you start to realize that there is so much to be grateful for. Whether it's the stillness of the water, whether it's the sun, whether it's the moon, whether it's the little squirrels running across, and just being able to take a moment of stillness to acknowledge them. All of these things allow you to start falling back in life after a time of losing yourself and maybe feeling disappointment for not being exactly where you thought you would be at a certain age. Maybe your younger self, your past self, your inner child, you think that they're not as proud of you as they could be. And at the same time, there's nothing more beautiful than just being right here, enjoying the most simple pleasures of life, enjoying the changes of the seasons, and falling in love with that change and shift and natural simplicity, and realizing it's not even that simple. It's actually very dramatic, and we take it for granted sometimes because we think that there's so much to do, and so we get so consumed with our minds and our insides and the rushing and the going and the creating and making something of value and a shift in the world, when in reality there are constant shifts going on around us. And being able to come outside of ourselves and just appreciate the changes of the seasons, as opposed to falling in love with just one season, one time. Right now we're in spring, and the sun is rising earlier and it's setting earlier, which is beautiful. And it's also a reminder that in the winter, when the sun sets earlier and rises later, there is an equal amount of beauty in that, because it's the shifting of the clock, the shifting of the seasons, and a reminder to shift internally as well, or acknowledge the shifts that are going on internally as well, because you don't really control the shifts. You don't control the fact that you are nature, and that what's going on outside of you ultimately impacts what's going on inside of you. And in the winter months, the sun sets earlier, and maybe that's an instruction or a guiding force to also set earlier, maybe fall asleep earlier and wake up later and embody rest. And it's interesting because I was reading this book last night that I started probably 7 years ago and only got about 40 pages in. And it's called Sapiens, and it's the history of mankind. And in the first chapter, it talks about the beginning of Homo sapiens and being hunters and gatherers, and how this has impacted our genetic makeup, and how for thousands and thousands of years we woke up, and we woke up maybe with the sun. Maybe we, instead of waking up at 6 a.m. and running and leaving for work at 7:30 a.m. and having to get to the office at 8:30 a.m. and spending 8 hours in the office and then coming home and eating the same thing and watching the same TV show and repeating this cycle over and over, in hunter-gatherer times, we would wake up maybe at 8 a.m. or leave at 8 a.m. and go hunting and gathering and then make it back by noon and have the rest of that time to spend with your kids, with your friends, just relaxing, enjoying, and taking in everything that's going on around you and just being fully present. And that shift to the past 100, 200 years, where we now are in this new lifestyle where we wake up, we rush, we produce, we spend all day doing so, we eat the same foods, and we just repeat. We don't have time to be present. We don't have time to rest. And although romanticizing the hunter-gatherer era is something to also kind of backtrack on, because of course many things were happening. They might get attacked by lions. They might lose children from a very, very early age because the death rates amongst children was a lot higher. You know, there's the balance. And at the same time, it's a good reminder that we are living in a time that separates us so much from noticing the little things, noticing the beautiful things, noticing the connection that we have with nature, and how coming in contact with this, coming in contact with the little things in life, is what brings us back to life and falling back in love with life. And so if you're feeling a sort of desperation or dissatisfaction or discomfort in your current reality, and you think, I should have accomplished more, I should have done more, so you're rushing and not giving yourself time to just be here now, this is your reminder that that's the first step to actually falling in love with your life. And I spoke about this in the last episode, that no amount of big project that you create amounts to the inner stillness and peace and love that you can find for yourself and create for yourself. And I bring you back to that and invite you to fall back in your life by starting this way, finding gratitude for the little things in your life. And then along that, minimizing the envy you might feel towards others. There's so much that you could do. There's so much that you have, and at the same time there's so much that you don't have, and that's okay. There's beauty in not having everything that others have, but But because we are so exposed to everything that other people don't have, and people on other sides of the planet are living completely different life situations from us, we start to compare ourselves and we start to feel envy. And falling in love with your life starts with being grateful for what you have and then minimizing that envy. And if there is something that somebody else has or does that you would like to have or do, using that as inspiration as opposed to allowing envy to take over and become anger. That's another step to falling in love with your life. And then creating habits. That's another way to fall in love with your life. Creating simple little habits, weekly habits, weekly goals, maybe daily goals, and allowing those habits to accumulate. You'll start to realize that there is so much that you can do, and maybe that doing is actually a lack of doing. It's soaking in, it's accepting, it's receiving instead of creating and giving, and being able to notice that the only way to properly give out is if you receive first, and there's nothing selfish about being a receiver. If anything, you might see yourself as selfish. This is a big realization that I had. I thought that I didn't give. I thought that I didn't volunteer myself, or I wasn't as much of a giver as I was a receiver. And now I've finally understood that I actually live my life giving way more than I receive, and that falling in love with the seasons also is in alignment with the giving and receiving and the natural flux of life happening within myself. And so if spring is the in-breath, spring is about receiving, it's about taking it. If summer is the pressure that comes with holding something, then summer is the accepting, truly accepting and holding. If fall is the out breath, fall is about letting go and giving out to the world. And if winter is the out breath, it's the allowing yourself to be empty, allowing yourself to just be this empty vessel. And this connection back to the seasons and the giving and the receiving, it's a natural cycle of life. And if you spend all day talking instead of listening, or if you spend all day giving advice, if you spend all day wanting to help others, but you don't know how to accept help yourself, then that's you being out of balance with the seasons, with nature, with the cycles of life. And there's an easy way to notice this. I even noticed it with myself. I noticed it a minute ago as I was just taking a deep breath in, because I hadn't taken a deep breath and I had just been putting things out. There's a simple way to notice where you're kind of stagnant or where you're limiting yourself, and that's by just taking deep breaths and inhaling, holding the breath, exhaling, and then allowing yourself to be empty. And repeating this breath, and just start noticing, what is the most uncomfortable to me? What season can I embrace more? Where can I allow myself to be more in flow of life? And that's not by surrendering to the flow of life, that's not taking action on anything. It's separating yourself from the action. It's separating yourself from the stress and anxiety of needing to create something, needing to produce something, and maybe stepping back into what your body actually calls for, what we spent thousands and thousands of years doing, which was, yes, actioning and doing the things that you need to do in order to get the food, in order to get the supplies, to stay alive, to support your community. And then allowing there to be a bit of separation between the hunter-gatherer, creator, producer, and the the human being who is a part of this earth and this natural cycle. And in that, you might just start falling back in love with your life if you seem to have lost that, which I think most of us do. We fall out of life so often because our lives aren't necessarily set up for success in the loving department and finding beauty department. What's beautiful too is falling in love with life also means falling in love with yourself and realizing that the beauty that is outside of you is also equally within you. I'll end that here. Thank you for tuning in and inviting yourself to take a moment of stillness here, of accepting, of taking in. Okay. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful morning, a wonderful life. Okay. Mwah.